If all of our recent videos have been top laners that hate playing top lane, then this video is a mid laner who hates playing mid lane. This is Action Man 3000, also known as Chris. Not quite as cool. And he is a Sylas Support player who hit Master in Season 11 and again in Season 12. This is an incredibly fun pick that not only can solo kill enemies in lane, he can even match the enemy mid laner's damage and beat them 1v1. Sylas Support can adapt to whatever situation he's put in, stealing the exact ultimate his team needs to win every fight. This pick is incredibly fun and not super hard, but most of all it's incredibly satisfying to see an Evelynn get killed by her own ultimate. Let me show you why Sylas Support is so good. But first, let me quickly tell you, this video has a crazy sponsor, Nvidia and Alienware, and the new 360Hz 25-inch Alienware gaming monitor featuring Nvidia Reflex. I was sent this monitor and it is one of the best for competitive gaming. I've been using it for 2 weeks now, so let me give you a review. For League of Legends, this monitor is great. It would be hard to find a better one. In fact, it's so good, it was the official monitor of the League of Legends World Championship. The actual best League of Legends players in the world are given this monitor because it's so good. But if you want to see what this monitor can really do, Nvidia Reflex is the standout feature. Available for a ton of games, most importantly competitive FPS games like Valorant, Apex Legends, Warzone, where Nvidia Reflex can be used to minimize the response time between your peripheral and the game. You plug your mouse directly into the monitor, so your click gets to the game as fast as possible. It's very similar to reducing your ping. You wouldn't want to play on a high ping, that would give you a disadvantage. If you want to play on the same monitor the pros use, then please check out the Alienware 25-inch 360Hz monitor at the link in the description. So, why is Action Man playing Sylas Support? Even though Sylas is universally considered OP by low elo players and even pro players, he has a negative win rate in both solo queue and pro play. His main issue is being a melee mid laner that also doesn't have good poke. He just gets bullied in every lane, immediately falling behind, which is awful in solo queue. He's especially bad in pro play because whenever Sylas is picked, the enemies can pick champions with bad ultimates on purpose, so when he steals them he's not useful. So Action Man came up with a solution to this, moving Sylas from mid lane to bot lane. He still has his great CC, his heal to bait enemies, and can now steal a great ultimate from the enemy support. Also, he no longer needs to care about getting CS, so he's not being poked constantly and will actually outdamage the enemy AD carry, making 2v2s very easy. But you do not see the true power of this pick until you see his early laning. Starting at level 1, Sylas sets up a strong laning phase by telling his team to invade the bot lane tribush. His goal is to find the enemy AD carry and force their flash. He's even happy to trade his own so that in early laning phase, Sylas can engage on them for a free kill. And Sylas does not have to wait long to start fighting. Even at level 1 against scaling AD carries or enchanter supports, he can go for an all-in. Sylas Support is way stronger than most supports at level 1, taking his E, which gives him a free dash, and a CC that also drags him to the enemy, where he can use Ignite and his passive auto attacks, which deal extra magic damage. Early kills are exactly what Sylas Support wants to go for. Level 2 he does the same thing. He immediately looks for an engage, taking W and using it to guarantee his E chain will land. He uses the dash on his E to get in range, the W as point and click to get him on top of the enemy, and then the second part of his E locks them down. This is an undodgeable combo unless enemies quickly dash or flash away, which is unlikely this early on. And it's not just his insane early damage that makes him good. With the dash on his E, Sylas also has the option to outplay lots of champions. For example, he can use it to dodge Rakan's knockup, or a Thresh hook, and use that window while it's down to engage when enemies can't respond. At level 3 he gets his full combo, and you should be almost guaranteed a kill by this point. Aiming to jump on the enemy AD carry, he has the damage and utility of a mid laner, so he can pretty much use any ability in any order and still win. His full combo is E dash into W auto attack, E chain, auto attack twice to use your passive stacks, Q for damage and to slow the enemy, auto attack then ignite, and this should always kill any squishy enemy. It's important to auto attack between abilities, as this is why Sylas's damage is so high. Enemies will not expect your high base damage. In fact, even master players often exhaust the AD carry instead of Sylas, even though he is the one that's actually killing them. This base damage is so high, Action Man can even play with Aftershock in most lanes. He clearly already has a ton of damage, so Aftershock allows him to survive much longer in fights, and thus get a second rotation of spells off, including his overpowered W heal, letting him use it multiple times and turn the fight. His Q slows for 1.5 seconds, and his E CC duration is another second, so if he lands his E chain into Q, it's perfect timing for the Aftershock's AoE damage to go off. Enemies are basically trapped in this fight, so they will take all of this damage if they don't flash away. The other option he has is taking Predator, where he bases early on to buy boots, and uses it immediately to roam mid or top lane, using his mobility and CC to set up a kill there. I would call this page high risk, high reward, because the roam may not work, whereas the Aftershock page is low low risk and still very high reward, because it's good in lane and helps in fights. At level 6, Sylas' game completely changes. His base kit is great, but now he has the option to adapt to any situation. Need damage? He can steal a damage ultimate. Need CC? He can steal a CC ultimate. Do you need to support your team, for example healing or peel? You can steal the support's ultimate. Need an engage for your team? Then you can just steal one. This means your team comp is never actually that bad. You should never lose a game from champ select because you have the tools to adapt. We all have tier lists on this channel, so Sylas made us a tier list of ultimates to steal, from the best to the worst. He's not saying that all of the bottom tier ultimates completely suck. They all have their own situations where they're actually the best. But S tier is always going to be reliable. According to Action Man, you only really need 1 or 2 good ultimates to win a game, and especially in the current meta, there are a ton of champions in S tier that are picked constantly, so it's a great time to play Sylas. A perfect example is Pyke. Pyke has a high pick rate in all ranks, so if you want to make extra gold and carry a fight, then steal Pyke's ultimate. Pyke is completely balanced around getting the free gold from his passive, but when you steal his ultimate, you just get the benefits with none of the drawbacks. A lot of these ultimates are completely broken on Sylas. For example, Alistar ult. He can steal Alistar's best ability and use it to take almost no damage in fights. Most supports trade their damage to have an amazing utility ultimate, like Rakan. He has a great AoE charm that can set up a wombo combo, but when Sylas steals it, he gets this and still has all of his other really good abilities to go with it. Ideally, Sylas Support gets a Dark Seal early on and a couple of kills bot lane, which makes him indistinguishable from a mid lane carry. I promise every single clip in this video is from support. In fact, you can watch all of the replays and check. But it just doesn't seem possible this guy is playing a support champion. He is the one carrying all of these fights in terms of damage, even 1v1ing the enemy mid laner, an Irelia who has full passive stacks that any other champion would be terrified of, even taking a 1 versus 2 and using his healing to outplay and win. Action Man says the best thing about this pick is if you lose the game, it's likely your fault for not carrying it. Your champion can set up plays and win them by himself. That's exactly what you want for solo queue. Sylas can now get Everfrost. This is great for roams because it guarantees he can land his E, which enables the rest of his damage. Even stealing the enemy's ultimate and using it to gank them, this pick is so satisfying. The other option he has is buying Crown. This item is great against a high damage enemy team. It means you're still a damage threat, but you can avoid being blown up. It's really annoying for enemies to deal with any champion that has this item, but now you're even playing a support with one of the safest items for a mage, making you extra annoying. His mid game is normal, roaming around with his team to gank and get kills, but there is nothing normal about how he teamfights. For teamfights, his first goal is to find a good ultimate. His favourite ults to steal are AoE hard CC, for example Leona, Malphite, Hecarim, Rakan or Orianna. The reason for this is because he should always be the engage for his team, and these ults are perfect to set it up. Waiting for his opportunity, he surprises enemies with a random CC to start the fight, jumping in himself. His goal is to disrupt enemies as much as possible, drawing their cooldowns and abilities, using his heal and Sonya's to avoid damage and stay alive. Also even buying Banshee's Veil in some games for even more safety. If a support is taking this much attention in a fight, his team has probably already won, and Sylas continuously does this in every game. If enemies try and focus him, they just get baited while he uses Sonya's. If they ignore him, he instead moves forwards and assassinates the damage dealer. Your playstyle should be based on the ultimate that you steal. If you get an Ashe ultimate, use it at range like she would, to engage from far away, and then follow up with the damage yourself. If you get a Zilean ultimate, then be really annoying and play extra aggressive, forcing enemies to deal with you before they can even think about your teammates. Sylas Support is super good, but before we give it a rating, quickly here is the build. Spell Thieves is the best item to start. It gives him the most damage early on for fights, and since he's fighting all the time, it will stack really fast. Buy Dark Seal early on to try and snowball the game, and Sorcerer Shoes for early roams. His mythic is Everfrost for playmaking, or Crown against burst champions so he can slow down the fights. Sonya's next is vital for teamfights. Then buying Banshees if you want more safety, or Cosmic Drive for more damage and speed to outplay enemies. He doesn't want really expensive items like Rabadons because he doesn't want to be farming. In conclusion, to rate this build, I think we need to compare it to the meta supports. Some of the best picks right now are enchanters, all of which Sylas should be able to kill in lane and beat, except for Lulu, which Action Man bans. So already this pick looks incredibly good. The main thing that can beat it are tank supports combined with strong early game AD carries, like a Nautilus with a Caitlyn or a Samira. My rating for this pick is a 6 out of 10, for the sole reason I think it belongs with the other picks that can either solo win or solo lose a game. Early game when he's fighting against a tank support, if it goes wrong, he's not going to get away alive. And after an early game death, the game gets really hard for Sylas to stay useful. But when this pick works, it's actually a 1 versus 9 pick, even beating carries in fights. I think the risk is worth it, and it's definitely worth trying for this reason. Surprisingly, our Sylas Sylas actually had his account hacked recently, and whoever hacked it has been playing some Disco Nunu. Unfortunately, he's not following our video, he's just trolling. This has got the account demoted, and it might be disappearing quite soon, but Action Man has decided to move on and create a new account instead. So if you want to support him after this, then why not check out his stream, link in the description. Thanks again to Nvidia and Alienware for sponsoring this video. Please check out the link to their incredible monitor below, and thanks so much for watching.